an American destroyer was sunk. Then, Japan raised it, rebuilt it, and put it into Japanese service. And years later, American sailors would find the ship again. This is the bizarre Odyssey of USS Stewart. But how did a scuttled American warship end up serving under the Japanese flag? And what happened when her American past finally caught up with her? In February 1942, the Pacific War was escalating rapidly. During the Battle of Badung Strait, the Clemson-class destroyer USS Stewart came under fierce Japanese attack and was severely damaged. She managed to return to Surabaya, Java under her own power and entered a floating dry dock for repairs. But Stewart's problems were far from over. The ship was not properly supported in the dock. She fell from the keel blocks, suffering additional damage to her hull and propellers. And with the port under enemy air attack, there was no time for a normal repair. The decision was made to destroy her. Demolition charges were set off inside the ship. A Japanese bomb also struck Stewart amidships. Then, on March 2, the port was evacuated, and the dry dock containing Stewart was scuttled. For the U.S. Navy, Stewart was finished, or so it seemed. Almost a year later, the Japanese raised the sunken destroyer, and they did something extraordinary. They repaired and converted the former American warship for Japanese service. On September 20, 1943, she was commissioned as Patrol Boat No. 102. The old four-stack American destroyer now sailed under the Japanese flag. Armed with two 3-inch guns, Patrol Boat No. 102 operated with the Japanese Southwest Area Fleet, performing escort duties. And then came the detail that made this ship so unusual. American pilots began reporting an American-looking warship operating deep inside enemy-controlled waters. The hull was unmistakable, but the ship was no longer American. It was Stewart, reborn as Patrol Boat No. 102. In November 1944, she sailed to Kure for repairs. There, her anti-aircraft armament was increased, and she was fitted with a light tripod foremast. Then, she attempted to return toward the Southwest Pacific, but the American reconquest of the Philippines blocked her route. The war had turned against Japan. And on April 28, 1945, while still under Japanese control, Patrol Boat No. 102 was attacked by United States Army aircraft at Mokpo, Korea. The former USS Stewart was badly damaged. On April 30th, she was transferred to the Kure Navy District and eventually laid up at Hero Bay near Kure. Then, the war ended. Japan surrendered in August 1945. And American occupation forces discovered something extraordinary waiting in the harbor. The old Stewart was still there. After years under enemy control, the American destroyer had survived. On October 29, 1945, she was recommissioned into the United States Navy at Kure. But there was one strange problem. She could no longer officially be called Stewart. Her original name had already been assigned to another destroyer, so officially, she became simply DD-224. But her crew gave her another name, Ramp 224. It stood for Recovered Allied Military Personnel. The old destroyer was finally heading home. But even that journey was not going to be easy. On the voyage back across the Pacific, her engines gave out near Guam. So DD-224 continued the journey under tow. In early March 1946, the battered former Stewart finally arrived in San Francisco. After everything she had survived, her story should have ended there. But the Navy had other plans. DD-224 was struck from the Navy list on April 17, 1946. She was decommissioned on May 23rd, and the very next day, May 24, 1946, the old destroyer was taken off the coast of San Francisco to serve as a practice target for military aircraft. American aircraft attacked the ship, rockets and gunfire tore into the battered hull, and slowly, the ship that had survived 2 flags, 2 navies, and years of war began to roll over. Then, she disappeared beneath the Pacific. USS Stewart had begun her life as an American destroyer. She was scuttled by her own side, raised and rebuilt by Japan, commissioned as patrol boat number 102, attacked by American aircraft, recovered by the United States, and finally sunk by the same nation whose flag she had once carried. After surviving 2 careers and 2 flags, the old destroyer finally disappeared beneath the Pacific. But the ghost of USS Stewart was not finished with history.